The holographic projection of burning colonies hung in the center of the Galactic Council chamber like an accusation. Commander Hallix Brennan stood beneath the images of 17 human settlements reduced to ash and watched as the council members refused to meet his eyes. 300,000 civilians dead. Orbital stations destroyed. Agricultural worlds rendered uninhabitable for generations. And the Krennic Empire, responsible for every atrocity, sat in their designated council seats with expressions of smug satisfaction. "The evidence is conclusive," Hallix said, his voice cutting through the chamber with controlled fury. "Warlord Zethro ordered unprovoked attacks on human colonies in clear violation of the Galactic Accords. We demand immediate sanctions and reparations." Arbiter Quelris of the Velthrin Dominion, current council chairman, made a gesture that translated as dismissive. "Commander Brennan, the council has reviewed your evidence. While the attacks are regrettable, the Krennic Empire claims the colonies were established in disputed territory. According to Article 17 of the Territorial Claims Resolution, conflicts arising from competing colonization efforts are considered internal disputes requiring bilateral negotiation." "Disputed territory?" Hallix repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "We filed colonization claims 40 years ago. The Krennic acknowledged those claims in writing. There was no dispute until they decided they wanted our resources and murdered 300,000 people to take them." Warlord Zethro rose from his seat, his armored form gleaming under the chamber lights. The Krennic were a warrior species, physically imposing and culturally aggressive. They had expanded their empire through military conquest for 3,000 years, and they viewed younger species like humanity as obstacles to be removed or vassals to be dominated. "The humans overstep," Zethro announced. "They claim territory far beyond their capacity to defend. They establish colonies in regions of strategic value and expect the Council to protect their presumption. Perhaps if Earth cannot defend its holdings, Earth should reconsider its expansion ambitions." "That sounds like a threat," Hallix said flatly. "It is an observation," Zethro replied. "Backed by 3,000 years of Krennic military superiority. Your species has been spacefaring for less than a century. You lack the strength, experience, and strategic depth to challenge established powers. Accept your limitations. Withdraw from contested regions. Or suffer consequences you are unprepared to endure." Hallix looked directly at Arbiter Quelris. "The Council is going to allow this? You will permit member species to threaten other members with military action? To commit mass murder and face no consequences?" "The Council encourages diplomatic resolution," Quelris said carefully. "However, we cannot adjudicate every territorial dispute between member species. If Earth and the Krennic Empire cannot reach bilateral agreement, perhaps mediation." 300,000 civilians were murdered, Hallix interrupted. "This is not a territorial dispute requiring mediation. This is genocide requiring justice." "Strong words," Chancellor Mithrin of the Crystalline Convergence said. "Her species valued order and stability above all else." "Perhaps too strong. The Krennic actions were aggressive, yes. But genocide implies systematic extermination. These were military strikes against colonies in contested space. Unfortunate, but not unprecedented in galactic history. So the Council position is that the Krennic Empire can murder human civilians and face no repercussions?" Hallix asked. "The Council position is that Earth should negotiate," Quelris replied, "and should reconsider establishing colonies in regions where more powerful species have conflicting interests. The galaxy operates on certain realities, Commander Brennan. Power matters. Military capability matters. Earth is a young species with limited resources. You must accept the constraints that reality imposes." "We reject those constraints," Hallix said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Several council members made sounds of surprise or concern. Warlord Zethro laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "You reject reality?" Zethro said. "How refreshingly naive. Very well, human. Reject what you wish. The Krennic Empire will continue expanding into regions you cannot defend. We will take what we need. And your primitive fleet will do nothing to stop us because you lack the strength to challenge us. Go home, Commander. Tell your leaders to be grateful we only destroyed 17 colonies. Continue this defiance, and we will teach Earth what happens to species that forget their place. Hallix turned to face the Krennic warlord directly. You should know something about Earth before you make more threats. We are a deathworld species. We evolved on a planet where everything tried to kill us, where survival required constant warfare against our environment, our predators, and eventually each other. We spent 10,000 years fighting ourselves before we reached the stars. We know warfare in ways you cannot comprehend because you have only fought external enemies. We fought our own species, our own families. We perfected the art of total war before we ever encountered aliens. Ancient history. Deathworld dismissed. Your wars were fought with primitive weapons against other primitives. You know nothing of modern military capability. We know enough, Hallix replied. We know that the Krennic Empire has been the dominant military power in this region for 3,000 years. We know you have never faced an opponent willing to match your ruthlessness. We know you believe superior force guarantees victory. And we know you are wrong. He turned back to Arbiter Quel'Rus. Earth formally requests Council intervention to prevent further Krennic aggression against human colonies. If the Council refuses, we will interpret that refusal as tacit approval for the Krennic Empire to continue attacks. And we will respond accordingly. That sounds like a threat to take independent military action, Quel'Rus said with concern in his voice. It is a promise to defend ourselves, Hallix corrected. Since the Council will not provide justice, we will provide it ourselves. The Council strongly advises against unilateral military action, Quel'Rus said. Such actions could destabilize the entire region. If Earth attacks the Krennic Empire, you will find yourselves isolated. No other species will support you against an established power. We do not need support, Hallix said. We need the Council to stay out of our way. You had the opportunity to prevent war through justice. You chose inaction. Now you will witness the consequences of that choice. He transmitted a final data packet to the Council archive. This is Earth's formal declaration. The Krennic Empire committed genocide against human civilians. The Galactic Council refused to intervene. Therefore, Earth claims the right of reprisal under the self-defense provision of the Galactic Accords. What happens next is on you. Hallix terminated the connection before anyone could respond. Aboard the Earth Defense Force command ship Retribution, Admiral Corwin Drake watched the Council session replay and allowed himself a grim smile. He delivered it perfectly, Corwin said. The Council now has formal notice that we are taking independent action. They cannot claim we attacked without warning. Ambassador Sloan Navarre, Earth's senior diplomatic officer, stood beside him reviewing tactical displays. They will not intervene on our behalf. The Velthran and crystalline species value stability over justice. They will allow the Krennic to expand rather than risk conflict. I expected that, Corwin replied. Which is why we prepared accordingly. How long until the fleet is in position? 18 hours, Sloan confirmed. All vessels are maintaining communications blackout. Stealth protocols are active. The Krennic have no idea we have military assets within striking distance of their core systems. And our special operations teams? Embedded and ready. They have been in place for 6 weeks, ever since the first colony attacks. We knew the Council would fail us. We prepared for war while pretending to seek peace. Corwin pulled up a holographic display showing the Krennic Empire. 47 star systems. 300 billion population. Military fleet of over 12,000 warships. Industrial capacity that dwarfed Earth by orders of magnitude. By every conventional metric, Earth could not win this war. The Krennic had superior numbers, superior technology, and 3,000 years of military experience. An extended conflict would end with Earth's defeat. Which was why Earth was not planning an extended conflict. Send the signal, Corwin ordered. Commence Operation Reckoning. Across 17 Krennic star systems, human special operations teams activated simultaneously. They were not soldiers in the traditional sense. They were engineers, scientists, and programmers who had spent 6 weeks infiltrating critical Krennic infrastructure. They had embedded themselves in orbital stations, communication hubs, power generation facilities, and military installations. And they had been building. On Krennic Prime, the Empire's homeworld, a maintenance technician named Riker Talman sat in a forgotten access tunnel beneath the Planetary Defense Command Center. He had been working there for 43 days, pretending to be a contracted specialist repairing aging infrastructure. In reality, he had been constructing something the Krennic would never have suspected humans capable of creating. Relay node active. Riker transmitted on encrypted human channels. Target lock confirmed. Weapons hot. Similar reports came in from teams across the Krennic Empire. Every critical system had been compromised. Every defense network had been infiltrated. Every command structure had human operatives positioned to strike at precisely the right moment. The Krennic had assumed Earth lacked the sophistication for this kind of operation. They had underestimated human ingenuity, human patience, and human willingness to prepare for war while smiling during peace negotiations. They were about to learn the cost of that assumption. All teams confirm ready status, Sloan reported. We have full operational control of Krennic infrastructure across 17 systems. Execute, Corwin ordered. 17 Krennic star systems went dark simultaneously. Power grids collapsed. Communication networks failed. Orbital defense platforms lost targeting capability. Military command centers found themselves unable to coordinate fleet movements. Transportation systems stopped functioning. Financial networks crashed. Emergency services lost contact with each other. In less than 3 minutes, the Krennic Empire descended into chaos. And then Earth struck. The human fleet emerged from stealth positions across Krennic space. Not to engage in ship-to-ship combat, the Krennic fleet still outnumbered them significantly. Instead, human ships deployed kinetic bombardment platforms targeting specific installations that the infrastructure sabotage had already crippled. Shipyards building new warships were destroyed before they could activate defenses. Military academies training the next generation of Krennic warriors were reduced to rubble. Research facilities developing advanced weapons were eliminated. Industrial centers producing military equipment were obliterated. Earth was not trying to conquer the Krennic Empire. Earth was systematically destroying the Empire's capacity to wage war. Aboard the Retribution, Corwin watched tactical displays showing the operation unfolding with precision. Minimal casualties on both sides so far. The human strikes targeted infrastructure, not population centers. But the damage to Krennic military capability was catastrophic. Warlord Zethril is attempting to rally fleet response, Sloan reported. But without functional communications, his forces cannot coordinate. Local commanders are operating independently without strategic direction. How long until they restore command and control? Corwin asked. Our teams estimate minimum 48 hours for basic functionality. Full restoration will take weeks. By then, we will have eliminated 90% of their offensive capability. What about casualties? Minimal so far. Our targeting has been precise. Krennic military and industrial losses are severe, but civilian casualties remain under 10,000. We are demonstrating that we can destroy their empire without mass murder. That is the message. Corwin nodded. The message being that we could have killed billions but chose not to. That we show more mercy to them than they showed to our colonies. Exactly, Sloan confirmed. We are proving that Earth fights with restraint even when provoked. But we are also proving that we can destroy any enemy who forces us to fight. 6 hours into Operation Reckoning, Warlord Zethril broadcast a message on every available channel, trying desperately to reach the Galactic Council. This is Warlord Zethril of the Krennic Empire. We are under attack by Earth forces. 17 systems have been compromised. Our infrastructure has been sabotaged. Human military assets are systematically destroying our offensive capabilities. We formally request Council intervention under the Mutual Defense Provisions. There was a long pause before Arbiter Quelris responded. Warlord Zethral, the Council is reviewing this situation. However, we note that Earth provided formal declaration of self-defense measures following Krennic attacks on human colonies. They acted within the framework of the Galactic Accords. The Council cannot intervene on behalf of the aggressor in a legitimate self-defense operation. Legitimate? Zethral roared. They have crippled our entire empire. This is not self-defense, this is invasion. They have targeted military assets, Quelris replied. Their strikes have been precise and limited to infrastructure supporting your military capability. Civilian casualties have been minimal. This is textbook application of proportional response doctrine. You attacked their colonies and killed 300,000 civilians. They responded by destroying your capacity to launch further attacks while deliberately minimizing non-military casualties. The Council finds Earth's response proportional and justified. You said we could expand into disputed territory, Zethral protested. You told the humans to negotiate or accept their limitations. We encourage diplomatic resolution, Quelris corrected. We did not authorize genocide. And we certainly did not guarantee that Earth would be unable to defend themselves. You assumed human military capacity was negligible. That assumption was incorrect. The Council cannot save you from the consequences of your own strategic failures. Chancellor Mithrin joined the conversation, her tone carrying notes of surprise. Warlord Zethral, the Council has been analyzing the human operation. Their level of coordination is extraordinary. They embedded operatives throughout your empire weeks in advance. They mapped your entire infrastructure. They identified critical vulnerabilities. They waited until you provided legal justification for retaliation. And then they executed a simultaneous multi-system operation with precision we have never witnessed before. This is not primitive warfare. This is sophisticated military planning at the highest level. They are deathworlders. Zethral spat. Savages from a hostile planet. They should not possess this capability. They are deathworlders who spent 10,000 years fighting each other, Mithrin replied. Which means they have military experience that spans their entire civilization. You have fought external enemies for 3,000 years. Impressive. But Earth has been fighting internal wars for more than 3 times that long. They did not need to learn warfare from aliens. They perfected it among themselves. That is what deathworld evolution creates. Corwin listened to the Council conversation with satisfaction. They are starting to understand. Earth is not a primitive species to be dismissed. We are a species that knows warfare at levels they have never encountered. Zethral is requesting ceasefire, Sloane reported. He is offering negotiations. Tell him we will accept ceasefire under the following conditions, Corwin said. Complete withdrawal from all 17 colonies they attacked. Full reparations for damages and casualties. Formal recognition of Earth's territorial claims. And permanent demilitarization of Krennic systems within 50 light-years of human space. Those terms are harsh, Sloane observed. They murdered 300,000 of our people, Corwin replied. They threatened to continue attacks. They assumed we could not defend ourselves. These terms are merciful compared to what we could demand. Tell Zethral he has 1 hour to accept, or we continue Operation Reckoning until the Krennic Empire no longer exists as a military power. The message was transmitted. 57 minutes later, Warlord Zethral formally accepted Earth's terms. 3 days after Operation Reckoning concluded, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every member species attended. And for the first time in the Council's history, Earth was invited to address the full assembly as an equal rather than a petitioner. Admiral Corwin Drake stood before them, flanked by Ambassador Sloane Navarre and Commander Hallix Brennan. The chamber was silent in a way it had never been silent before. The casual dismissiveness that had characterized previous interactions with Earth was gone, replaced by wary respect. Members of the Galactic Council, Corwin began. Earth comes before you today not to request intervention, but to inform you of facts that should shape our future interactions. First, Earth will never again accept Council inaction in response to attacks on our citizens. You failed to provide justice when the Krennic Empire committed genocide against our colonies. That failure forced us to provide justice ourselves. We have done so. The Krennic Empire no longer poses a threat to human settlements. They have accepted our terms for ceasefire and reparations. He paused, letting that sink in. Every council member knew what he was really saying. Earth had defeated an established galactic power without council assistance. They had proven they did not need the council's protection. Second, Corwin continued, Earth will defend itself with whatever means necessary against any threat, regardless of that threat's origin or political affiliations. You called us a young species with limited resources. You told us to accept our limitations. We reject that characterization. Earth has resources you did not recognize because you measured us by metrics irrelevant to our capabilities. We do not need the largest fleet to protect ourselves. We need strategic intelligence, operational planning, and willingness to do what is necessary. We possess all three. Arbiter Quelris spoke carefully. Admiral Drake, the Council acknowledges that we misjudged Earth's defensive capabilities. Your operation against the Krennic Empire was extraordinarily sophisticated. But surely you recognize that such aggressive operations create instability. The Council exists to prevent conflicts, not to witness their escalation. The Council exists to provide justice, Corwin corrected. When you failed to provide justice, you forced species to seek it independently. Earth sought Council intervention first. You refused. What happened after that refusal was inevitable. If you want stability, provide justice. If you refuse justice, accept that the aggrieved will pursue their own remedies. Chancellor Mithrin's crystalline form pulsed with thoughtful colors. You are suggesting the Council must take more active roles in mediating conflicts? That we must be willing to sanction powerful members who violate the Accords? I am suggesting the Council must decide whether it serves justice or merely preserves the status quo, Corwin replied. For 3,000 years, the Krennic Empire expanded through military aggression. You accepted that behavior because they were strong and confronting them would be difficult. You told weaker species to negotiate or accept their limitations. That approach guarantees that power, not justice, determines outcomes. Earth will not operate under that system. What alternative do you propose? Quelris asked. Equal application of rules, Corwin said simply. When member species violate the Accords, they face consequences regardless of their military power or political influence. When genocide occurs, the Council intervenes. When threats are made, the Council responds. Not with appeasement. Not with suggestions to negotiate. With actual enforcement. If the Council cannot provide that, then the Council is irrelevant to species like Earth who refuse to be victims. Warlord Zethril, attending the session remotely since his empire was still recovering from Operation Reckoning, spoke with barely controlled rage. The human suggests the Council should have sanctioned us for legitimate territorial expansion. You murdered 300,000 civilians, Hallix said flatly. Stop calling it territorial expansion. Call it what it was. Mass murder. You killed our people because you believed we could not stop you. You were wrong. And now your empire is crippled because the Council would not stop you. How many species have suffered similar attacks because the Council refused to confront your aggression? How many civilizations accepted unfair terms because fighting you seemed impossible? Earth answered those questions. Fighting you was not impossible. You were defeatable. You were just never challenged before. Silence filled the chamber. Every council member understood the implication. The Krennic Empire had been the dominant regional power for millennia. They had expanded without significant opposition because other species believed defeating them was impossible. Earth had proven that belief false in less than a week. That changed everything. The Council will take Admiral Drake's suggestions under advisement, Quelris said finally. And we wish to formally recognize Earth's demonstrated military capability. You have earned the Council's respect through your actions against the Krennic Empire. However, we must also express concern about the precedent this sets. If every species believes they can take independent military action when dissatisfied with Council mediation, then the Council should ensure species have no reason to be dissatisfied. Corwin interrupted. Provide real justice. Enforce actual consequences for violations. Protect the weak instead of deferring to the strong. Do these things, and independent military actions will be unnecessary. Fail to do these things, and species will continue protecting themselves. Earth has shown it can be done. Others will follow our example. Chancellor Mithrin spoke thoughtfully. You have fundamentally altered the galactic power dynamic, Admiral Drake. The Krennic Empire was believed invincible. You destroyed that belief in days. Now every species in the Council is reevaluating their assumptions about military capability and strategic planning. You have introduced uncertainty into a system that valued predictable power hierarchies. That uncertainty could be destabilizing. Or it could be liberating, Sloane suggested. For 3,000 years, the galaxy operated under the assumption that old, established empires could dominate younger species. Earth has proven that assumption false. Age and size do not guarantee victory. Strategic intelligence and willingness to fight matter more than raw power. That levels the playing field for everyone. It terrifies us, Mithrin admitted bluntly. You are a deathworld species with military expertise we cannot match. If you decide to expand aggressively, we will not, Corwin said firmly. Earth seeks peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity. We established colonies to build homes, not to threaten neighbors. We only fought because we were attacked and the Council refused to intervene. Give us justice and we will never need to fight again. And if we cannot guarantee justice? Quelris asked quietly. Then we will guarantee our own survival, Corwin replied. As we just demonstrated. The choice is yours, Arbiter. Create a council that serves justice for all species, or accept that species like Earth will defend themselves when attacked. Either way, the days of powerful empires dominating weaker species without consequence are over. Earth has proven that the weak can strike back. That lesson will spread throughout the galaxy. What you do with that knowledge determines whether the Council remains relevant or becomes obsolete. The session concluded with no formal resolutions. But everyone understood that something fundamental had shifted. Earth had challenged the galactic order and won. They had demonstrated capabilities that contradicted every assumption about young species from hostile worlds. And they had done it without seeking permission, without requesting support, and without accepting the limitations the Council tried to impose. The Galactic Council fell silent because there was nothing left to say. Earth had spoken through actions rather than words. And those actions echoed across the galaxy with a message every species heard clearly. Humanity would not be victimized. Humanity would not accept injustice. And humanity would defend itself with whatever means necessary, regardless of what the Council said or did. That was the new reality. The Council could adapt to it or become irrelevant. But they could not change it. Earth had struck back without mercy. And the galaxy would never underestimate them again. If you enjoyed this story, like the video and subscribe for more.